So good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Danae Wolf, the Ed Tech Specialist for OSU Extension, and I'm here today with Jamie Sager, our Program Director for the Ed Tech Unit. And this morning is meant to be a very informal Q&A session on Zoom. So we are here to answer any of the questions that you might have on Zoom. We also have a couple things that we would like to show you. So if you don't have any questions off the top of your head right now, we can sort of jump in and get started with some of the things that I know I want to cover. But first, do you guys have any questions? And feel free to take yourself off mute, or you can type them into the chat box as well. So what do you want to know?
Hey, Danae, sorry, I just popped in. I was finishing the call. I'm curious about sharing videos over Zoom.
Okay.
Like, do I need to share my screen to do that and then go to the website and then play the YouTube video, or can I embed it? I'm thinking about teaching and using a short, like 1 minute clip or 2 minute clip.
Yeah, so when you share your screen, you have the option of, let me touch it here. So it'll bring up what application you want to share, and you can share your entire desktop. So then it's going to show anything that's on your desktop, but then you also have the option of sharing any individual application. So let's say you just want to share your internet browser. For me, I use Safari on my Mac. So I would just choose Safari, and then maybe I would have YouTube opened up all ready to go. Here's the key to sharing video on your computer. If there's audio, which typically when you're showing a video, there's going to be audio, there is a little button. If you hit share screen, you can choose what application you're going to share. And then there's a little check box at the bottom that says share computer sound. That is key to sharing videos because that will share whatever audio is in that video. It will share it natively through the computer. So all of your participants will be able to hear the audio.
So can I try this?
Yeah, go for it.
Absolutely.
I was just going to tell you to go ahead and try it.
Okay, so I'm doing here's.
You can also optimize it for full screen video. There's a checkbox for that as well.
Optimize, share computer sound.
Yep, so you want to check those.
Share screen. So I clicked on my browser. So you guys should be seeing Simon Sinek start with Y. Are you seeing only the video or my whole Google everything?
We're seeing your whole screen.
You're seeing everything.
And it's not resolving into anything looking like legible, at least for me. But
it's really
Ohio internet, so.
Yeah, it's really fuzzy for me as well.
Okay, that's an interesting piece.
It's getting better. The sound is perfect.
But you're getting fuzz.
It's better.
Video's cool. How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer.
Okay, so now you're seeing my full screen, and you're hearing me, and I can hear you guys, but you can see this, and I could go back, I can say, okay, here's his key point. I can turn the sound up.
Yeah.
Led the civil rights movement.
Turn it back down. Okay.
He wasn't the only man.
And then
I will say that sound was really, really loud when it was at full volume in YouTube. So yeah, you probably will want to take it down a notch.
And why is it?
Yeah, it was a little hard to hear you. Like I could still hear you while you were talking, but it was hard to hear you over the video. And this has been my experience too with sharing videos, is that they won't come through perfectly, but it comes through well enough, and it's not super pixelated if you have a good connection, enough that people can watch it. It's not going to lag too much. They'll hear you. They'll hear the video. It's not going to be perfect, but much better than what we were used to with Carmen Connect and trying to stream something. Right. So anyone else want to try a video? Is that something that you might need to do and you want to go ahead and try it?
And if anybody wants to just play, you can hit the share screen button. You don't actually have to share your screen, but you'll see those two little check boxes at the bottom for share computer sound and then optimize for full screen video. But those are two things you'll definitely want to keep in mind. The sound sounded great. It was loud, but it did sound great through the computer. for the video that Brian just shared.
So do you think that pixelated screen at the front end just means you got to take your time, it's not instantaneous, let the optics catch up, or let the communication catch up with the conversation?
Probably, yeah. And you will want to make sure that you are on a very high speed internet network if possible. I know sometimes it gets a little iffy depending on where you are. I know my campus connection is really, really poor sometimes, so it's hard to do meetings like this on my campus connection. So yeah, just make sure that you have the highest quality internet possible. And then I haven't.
And everybody else in the meeting, right?
Well, that's what I was just going to ask Jamie. Like, if I had a really poor internet quality, but like, let's say Brian's was amazing, high speed, would it affect the way? I mean, obviously, it would probably say unstable internet connection, and it would probably look a little poor for me.
Yeah, with Zoom, this is one way that's different from Carmen Connect. So with Connect, if one person has a weak internet connection, it will drag the entire meeting down. So it'll pull everyone down to that, basic level from the person that has the weakest connection. So it would be fuzzy for like everyone and be hard to look at for everyone. With Zoom, it's the opposite. So if you have an unstable connection, it's going to look fuzzy and not come through well for you, but for everyone else, it should be fine.
Actually, that's a good point then. As a presenter, I would want to really slow things down and make sure my audience is seeing the same thing I'm seeing, because it might look great to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be helpful to, like, instead of pulling it up and then jumping right into it,
right,
pulling it up, making sure that everyone can see it well, maybe starting it and saying, can everyone hear this okay?
Okay.
Yeah, and then move on, rather than just jumping right into it and assuming everyone can see it as well as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So any other questions or concerns about screen share, or any questions about like sharing a specific application that's open?
I'm also curious about sharing PowerPoints. Mm-hmm. So do you have a standard recommendation, like how you, so that they can see the content, but also see me presenting? Is there a preferred way? Because you could do it a couple different ways, where I'm either sharing my screen or there's another way I thought of to do it. Anyway, do you have a recommendation on that?
I think it depends on if you're in a webinar format or in a meeting format. Because with webinar, I noticed when we did last month's, my video feed didn't show up in the recording. It was just the PowerPoint, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't know the answer to that question. How to make sure that your feed is also available, like on top of your PowerPoint presentation, so that your participants see both. Jamie, do you know?
Yeah, because otherwise, because webinars are like death. If there's just the PowerPoint and somebody's talking, and heaven forbid they're reading, right, then you just want to die. And so one of the things I'm trying to figure out or experiment with, I did this fairly recently. Let me see if you guys will indulge me to see if it works here, just for a second.
Sure.
So I've got I just shared this, so I'll open it back up. The new employee orientation. So let me try sharing my screen again. And new employee orientation. So here was a PowerPoint. But if, say, I'm teaching this or teaching whatever and wanting to do it, there's a group of 5 or 10 people in Indiana. I want to be able for them to see me, so they get the whole kind of real life presentation. They could put this on a screen and then also see my PowerPoint. So if I go to start my PowerPoint here. So now you guys are seeing the slide, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see me?
We see all the meeting participants along the top.
Okay, and I have you guys down the side.
Okay, yeah, and that will be different in a webinar format. And that's what I don't know the answer to, is how to make sure your video feed as well as your presentation shows up. That would be a question probably for Ken Kolka. He's handling all of the technical questions coming through for Zoom. And that was actually because of what happened at our webinar last month. That's a question that I have for him as well, how to make sure that both your video feed and your presentation show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that's a Ken question, just to make sure. I mean, I've recorded webinars that you can see both, like you see the video feed and you see whatever is being shared. I'm in the camp that when I share I very sparingly use PowerPoint, and I try to have a lot of resources at the ready to keep pulling up, and so I just share my screen constantly, but I make sure I have that video feed going at the same time too, which I'm sure it's what you do a lot too, Brian. So yeah, I think that's a Ken question, just to make sure that you have both.
The other thing with screen share that I wanted to mention, Brian, if you could stop sharing your screen for a second.
Yep.
I don't want to take it from you. So if you hit share screen, okay, wait, maybe this is just in the webinar format. There is something that allows you, and again, it must be, I'm looking, it must be in the webinar format. When you share your screen, it's, what is it called? I can't remember what the option's called, and I don't have a webinar license unless I request it, so I can't go in and check. But instead of having to stop your screen share and then share a different application, you can just click to share to the next application. So instead of like stopping your whole screen share and then resharing, let's say you're going from like an internet browser to a PowerPoint presentation, you could just instantly switch from one to the next. And there is a sort of a separate button when you're in the webinar platform to do that. It's not just share screen, it's like share. Jamie, I don't know if you know what the button is called. I would have to go into a webinar format and check. Yeah, but basically it allows you to switch very easily from one application to the next instead of having to stop your screen share and then reshare it. Does that make sense?
Well, you know what? I don't know what you're talking about when you say webinar format. Is that a separate?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So everybody within CFAES has a meeting format license, which allows you to host meetings of up to 50 participants. Now, oddly enough, when I log into Zoom and I look at my meeting license, it actually tells me that I can host meetings for up to 100 people. I don't know why that is, because Ken and others within CFAES IT, they've said it should only be 50 people. But I can apparently have meetings of up to 100. Now that's a lot of people to have in a meeting where you can see everybody's video feed. So we tend to recommend like any more than maybe 15 to 20 people, you probably want to switch to a webinar format. But again, it depends on what your meeting or presentation is. If it's going to be you just talking to a group of people, webinar makes more sense. We have 2 different webinar license formats in the college. We have, I think, 2 licenses that can do webinars for up to 500 people. And I think 5 licenses for webinars of up to 100 people. And you have to request a webinar license for whenever your webinar is going to be. So you would go into the CFAES IT Zoom portal. Just go to go.osu.edu/Zoom. It will take you to that Zoom portal and you can request a webinar license. And then they will assign you a license there.
Temporarily.
Temporarily, right.
For your time and date.
Yeah. And Jamie, you probably still have a webinar license through eExtension.
Yeah, I have access to a license, so I can
loan it out.
Yeah, but there is a little form that you submit. You go to the Zoom portal, which I just put the link in the chat box, and you submit the request through the portal. And so there's like a little process in place in our format for sure. So like right now we can see everyone's video that is a part of the meeting. We can easily swap sharing screens back and forth. So you as a participant in the meeting have access to just, hit that share screen button and you've taken control of everything. In a webinar format, you definitely have hosts and you have participants and you have panelists and you have co-hosts, and the participants usually do not have audio privileges. They'll just be have access to group chat. There's a Q&A feature that you can use during a webinar, but then the only video feeds that you see are of panelists and hosts of the webinar. You don't see everyone's video feed during a webinar. So there are definite differences between the two, and there's a time and a place for both. So like Danae said, if you're presenting something and you're going to have lots of people there and you don't necessarily want it to be you know, like a full-on discussion or conversation, then it's a great idea to use a webinar. If you want something to be highly interactive and you're going to limit it to a certain number of participants, then we would suggest going with a meeting format. It's really, you know, it really depends on the goals that you have for what you're going to use Zoom for.
Mm-hmm. Can you guys all see my screen?
Yes.
I'm sharing the Zoom portal right now. And again, it's just go.osu.edu/Zoom. And the recordings for our previous events, as well as the CFAES IT basic and advanced Zoom trainings, are also under here on training resources. And then if you scroll down to the very bottom right corner, there's a request a webinar link. So if you click that, you can type in all of your event information. You can type in whether you require host support. So do you want somebody on there to be a host for you and to help moderate? You can also choose room connector, which means that this will be connected to one of our, I think, Polycom systems, like in a room on campus, and then whether or not you need cloud recording. Now, they do have priorities for who can access cloud recording. Typically, if you record, like I'm recording this meeting right now, it's going to save to my desktop. That's where I have all of my recordings saved to. And then I go in and I add a little intro, and then I upload it to YouTube, our EdTech YouTube channel. But if you don't have a YouTube channel and you want this to be saved in the cloud, you can request that. Most of our things are not in that priority list for CFAES though. So
and saving to your desktop just means it's saved to your computer. So once the meeting or the webinar is over, it will automatically download it to your computer, and then you'll be responsible for uploading that somewhere so that you can share it. So you upload it to Buckeye Box and create a link that you can, you know, forward on to people. If you save it to the cloud, that means that you're saving it to Zoom rather than to your computer. I highly suggest going ahead and saving it to your computer, and then once you upload it to Buckeye Box, just delete it off of your computer, because you'll run out of cloud space very, very quickly. It's very, very, they're big files, as you can imagine. So
when we don't have Zoom, we don't have any Zoom storage individually. So we have to request it through CFAES. And they have a very limited amount of space. That's why they sort of have a priority list. Only like big, like huge university events, I think, get priority, or maybe like huge like webinars that are offered by like the director of extension. Like if Roger were to do something, that might have priority over like an individual county program. Are you guys all seeing my Zoom sort of settings, my Zoom client on my desktop? So going back a few steps, when I was talking about doing a sharing your screen and going from one application to the next instead of stopping a share, when you are sharing that screen, that option comes up, and it's called a new share. So instead of stopping, like I just went from Safari, my internet browser, directly to my Zoom client, and it's just called new share, and I got to select what new application I was sharing. So hopefully that makes sense. But a few things that I did want to show you on the topic of where your recordings go. Right here, this is my Zoom client. So all extension employees and CFAES employees should download the Zoom client on your desktop. This allows you to easily create meetings, schedule meetings. There's also some other features I'll show you while I'm in here, but I will show you the settings real fast. If I pop up my settings and go to record, you can choose where to store your recordings at. I have chosen to select my desktop because that way I can find that video recording very easily. As soon as it's done recording, it just saves directly in my desktop. I can find it. It saves in some weird Zoom folder that's kind of hard to find if you don't change that. So you kind of have to do some searching. I would recommend going into your settings and choosing a specific spot or folder where all of your Zoom recordings are going to save to, because it's a lot easier than having to track it down someplace in a hidden file on your computer when you're done. So hopefully that makes sense.
For anybody that might be watching the recording of this later, can you maybe go to your Zoom account and show where they can find the option to download the Zoom client?
Yes.
Might be helpful.
And actually it's on the CFAES portal. So I will show you that. Again, I'm going to just hit that new share button, and then I'm going to go back to Safari.
Because I've found that some people are having a difficult time locating that.
Yeah, so again, if you click that go.osu.edu/Zoom link, and you're on that home page for the Zoom portal, and then there's just a button up here that says download, and you hit that, this will take you directly to what what downloads you should have. And there's two different ones. There's a Zoom client for meetings. You'll download which one's appropriate for you, whether you're on a Windows or a Mac system. And then you can also do the Zoom plugin for Microsoft Outlook, which is another really cool thing to download. And I will show you, I'll bring up my Outlook folder right now.
I really wish that they'd use a different word other than client, because I think that confuses a lot of people. So just think of that as like a little tool that's going to live on your computer, that you can easily bounce back and forth between Zoom options, and you don't always have to log in, you know, pull up Zoom on your browser, log into your account, and do everything from there. It makes it easier to use all of your Zoom features that you have access to right there on the go if you're not in a meeting or in a webinar and you want to chat with someone, or you want to schedule something or start a meeting really quickly with someone that you're chatting with. It's just a little tool that will live on your desktop on your computer. It's an easier way to think about it. I wish they would swap that client word, because it's really it's like
confusing.
almost like technical speak that, you know, they should know better.
We do highly recommend, though, that you download that Zoom client. And then, like I said, the other option is downloading the Microsoft, do they call that client too? Microsoft download. And what this does, you guys should be seeing my Outlook now. This pops up two little options up here in my Zoom, or sorry, in my Outlook application. I have the option to schedule a meeting. And you could have some settings here, like whether or not your participants' video will automatically be on, whether or not your video will be on, whether you want people to be able to join by telephone only or voice over IP. So there's a couple options there. I'll hit continue. And here's the nice thing is it creates this great little meeting invitation. And then I can send a meeting invite to anybody within my Outlook calendar or within my Outlook system, which is anybody in the university. So let's say I wanted to send something to Jamie. I'm going to type in her name. I've scheduled a meeting. I can send this email to her and she'll get an invite. It's as easy as that. It's really, really nice. But you can also do this in the Zoom client on your desktop. So I'm going to discard that. I will go back to my Zoom account. And right here, you have this option to schedule a meeting. And it's pretty much the exact same thing. You can schedule things, then you can go ahead and invite people. If you do it in Outlook, it's nice because, again, it just sends those people an automatic email invitation. And you can choose anybody within the university. And you should be able to add any email address to that, even if it's outside the university. It just might not be searchable, you know, through the university system.
Okay, I have a couple of questions about that, if you don't mind. So if you use one of these plugins or the client, those then show up when you go in through your browser on your whole history of meeting kind of thing, my meetings?
Yeah, so if you log in through the single sign-on or whatever through your university account with Zoom, all of those meetings will be there in the desktop version, or I'm sorry, in your internet browser, as well as in your Zoom client on your desktop.
So then I'm kind of curious too about inviting people outside OSU. What's the best way for me to tell them, what's the best way for them to prepare for a Zoom meeting? Do they need to go to zoom.us and download it? Or
they shouldn't need anything. All they need is that URL for your meeting. So just the meeting link. You send it to them, they click it, it'll open up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about Zoom is that you don't have to download anything. It's super easy to
So all they need is my URL. And I can say, you don't have to download anything to your computer for this.
Right.
Okay.
Now I did write a blog post, I think it was just yesterday morning or 2 mornings ago. It was about how to avoid those awkward situations where people log into Zoom and their video is automatically playing and they weren't prepared for that. And we get that a lot.
Perfect case for that this morning. Did you see that?
and trust me,
you guys were under my desk.
That happens a lot. And sometimes it puts people in very awkward situations. And we want to avoid that at all possible costs. So you have a couple different options. When you schedule a meeting, you have the option of turning participant video off automatically.
I saw that, and you know what, I thought I should know better from using Zoom already, but it seemed like such a permanent thing to me, but it's not.
It's just for this individual meeting.
Well, and it's only for the first few moments. Everybody, when they're ready, can easily click.
Exactly, but see, that's the other problem is if everybody's video is automatically turned off, sometimes they won't turn it on. You can ask them, hey, please turn your video feed on. They'll just be like, nope, I don't want to.
Okay.
So there's pros and cons to that. What Jamie and I have always tried to do is let people know, hey, when you join this meeting, your video feed, if you have a webcam on your computer, your video feed is going to start automatically. So please be aware of that. Please be prepared for that. So that's one issue. The other thing I wrote about in that blog post is you have the option as like when you go into your Zoom client settings and go to video, you can disable your own video when you join a meeting or webinar. So I've done that so that I know every time I join a webinar or a meeting, it shows my picture that I've uploaded in Zoom. And I recommend going in and doing that as well. I think you have to do that through your browser. So I think you have to sign into Zoom online. And you can upload a nice professional photo of yourself. So when I join a meeting, it's my professional photo. And then I can choose to start my video when I'm ready. So that way I can make sure, I look great and I'm all ready for video feed. Another point about looking great on Zoom, you'll notice here that there's a little box for touch up my appearance. I wrote a blog post about this, I think last month. You can select that and it just kind of gives you a nice, like smoother complexion, if you will. So it kind of makes you just look great on camera. So you'll see I have that selected as well.
You look great.
Thank you.
Danae doesn't even need it.
And when you toggle that on and off, it's kind of amazing how much of a difference it does make. So I leave that on. I do recommend going into either Zoom online if you log in through your web browser or through your Zoom client and kind of just going through some of these settings one by one. And kind of just, seeing what they mean. You can test your microphone or speaker. There's some advanced features. Oh, actually here, you can edit your profile picture. This is probably going to log you in to the web browser though online. So that's where you can upload your own photo.
If you all don't have, if you haven't done that, why don't you go ahead and try that out? Spend a couple minutes going in, and Danae can walk through the steps maybe one more time to getting access to that. And then you can go ahead and upload your picture while we're here.
Yeah, so if I click that link that said edit my profile, are you guys still seeing just my Zoom client? You're not seeing my Safari, my web browser? It did open, actually it opened Google Chrome, so we'll go there. All right, so it did open my web browser. I was already signed in, so it automatically signed me in. And here's where I can change my profile image. So it's always great to have that because when you stop your video share, your picture will show up instead. If you don't have a picture, it'll just be a black screen with your name. So yeah,
I've noticed a lot of folks at OSUE have not done that yet. Because they just have their name on there.
Yeah, so if you guys want to take a minute or two and you have a photo saved someplace on your computer, you can pull one from a social media account. Why don't you go ahead and upload a photo now? That block O that you see on my image, that does not automatically show up. I had to create that in Photoshop, just so you know. That will not automatically show up as like a professional photo. But that way people know like this is a professional account, so you can do that if you want.
Where was the touch up your appearance link?
So if you go to your Zoom settings in your Zoom, so do you have the Zoom client downloaded on your computer?
Yes.
So if you open up that, there should be settings someplace. And if you're on Windows, I'm not exactly sure where to find that, but it's under video.
Ah, okay.
Did you find it?
I did.
Okay, great.
And actually, I'm getting the link for you guys in case you want the little blocko. They call it a bug. The little blocko bug that you can add to your photos and your social media profiles and things. I'll pull that link up for you guys in case you want it later.
You definitely need to update it with your purple hair now, though.
I know. I was just thinking that. This is a photo that's 2 years old. I need to change it. But you'll notice too, Jamie, and this is what I find so weird. If you look at my screen, the capacity for my meetings is 100.
Yeah, that's strange.
I don't know
Mine
why.
is too.
Oh, is it?
Mine is too.
Okay, so maybe we all have 100, and that's funny because it's supposed to only be 50.
Maybe they're telling everyone 50, so we won't have meetings larger than 50.
Can you imagine 100 people at a meeting
That would
like
be
this?
hard to manage. I have difficulty managing groups of 20 or more on meetings with video. So yeah, that'd be hard.
Is anybody having trouble uploading a photo or any questions about how to upload a profile photo in Zoom?
No, but could I test mine? I'm going to turn off my video.
Yeah, go ahead and stop your video feed and see if it works.
I can figure out how to do that.
It should be at the bottom of your screen. It's like stop.
Yeah, but you know, my Windows taskbar is in front of all the, there we go.
I just did it. I've been wanting to do that forever. I didn't know how to do it.
There you go. It works, Jane. We see your photo. And you should see it too. Brian, I don't see yours though.
Yeah, I just stopped my video. I thought it might pop up there automatically. So let me see if I need to change a setting.
Yeah, it just has your name still. Cindy's is working.
Yay!
Now, how come I don't see all participants? Just because that window's small. Got it. Never mind.
So any questions as you guys are putting your profile photos in there? You also have access to some meeting settings through the web browser. So when you're logged in here as well, you can set up some different settings here. Like if you're gonna have breakout rooms, you need to make sure that you have that selected so that when you create your meeting, this is just like a general setting. So it's not a setting that you do per individual meeting that you schedule. So you'll wanna turn on that breakout room. We can test this out too. I've never done breakout rooms, but Jamie and I can test this out with you. Breakout rooms allows you to actually break people out into individual rooms. So if you have 20 people and you want to do 5 groups of 4 people, you can actually break them into their own little meeting room. They can have a discussion, a group discussion, then they can come back into the larger group and share what they've discussed with everybody. So it's kind of a really neat little feature in Zoom meetings.
Especially if you have a large group and you want it to be a highly interactive and engaging meeting, it's a really good idea to use.
Now you don't have that option in the webinar format. It's only an option in the meeting format. So that's good to know as well. There were some times that we wanted to do breakout rooms, but we were on a webinar and we weren't able to do that. So you had to kind of do some creative thinking for how we're gonna let people discuss things in small groups.
Can you let people select their own groups, or do you have to put them into those rooms?
I believe the host assigns people individual rooms.
Yeah, we haven't tested this out yet because we haven't had the opportunity to actually use it. I mean, we've talked about using breakout rooms, but like Danae said, each time the opportunity, like we've thought, oh, we should do breakout rooms. It's during a webinar and we can't do it. So I think Danae's right. I think the host has capability to assign people different rooms. I mean, as a host, you could do it randomly. You wouldn't have to sit there and take a long time assigning people and letting them go off. But what we've done during webinars in place of breakout rooms, since we didn't have the ability to use them, is to use the group chat. So that's an option, especially if you're doing something with OSUE colleagues. You've got the easy ability to just have them use group chat.
Do you guys know
the Zoom client
what group chat is?
With the little Zoom tool. Go ahead.
Has anybody used the Zoom chat through the Zoom client? It's like AOL Instant Messenger for anybody who used to be like super into like AOL Instant Messenger. That's how my college friends and I used to communicate. Even if we were sitting in the same dorm room, we'd sit there on AIM and just message each other stupid stuff back and forth. So it's basically like AIM. But the great thing about it is all of your OSU Extension colleagues and CFAES colleagues are in the system already. So I'm going to go ahead and share. Yeah.
I wanted to mention I created a Zoom chat list with all the A&R educators in top of Ohio. And we are using it quite a bit already to exchange photos of what clients bring into the office and to get each other's help to identify things and find solutions.
That's an amazing use
we're
of
using
it.
For, because we're not only are we trying to pick everybody's mind to get the information, but we're all learning from it at the same time when we see these images and discussions that are going on.
Yeah. So that's really, really fantastic. And that's what I was going to recommend is if you have colleagues that you're communicating with on a regular basis, Zoom group chat is really amazing. Jamie and I tend to use Slack for this because we've been using Slack for the last, really since I started in this position, so about 2 years. But Zoom group chat is a really, really great option as well. So I will go ahead and bring this up. I'll share my Zoom screen with you again. And it's right down here at the bottom. There's a little button that says chats. So I can bring this up and you'll see I have a chat here with Jamie and Jared Morrison. I can just create a new chat and it's going to ask me to type in anybody in the college. So if I wanted to chat with my husband, who also works for the university, I could just select his name and then I can just type a message and it's going to go to Scott, my husband. Now, the caveat here is Scott has to have Zoom open. So either on his phone, it has to be activated, or he has to have the Zoom app in order to get that message, or he has to have it open and running on his desktop to get that message. Otherwise, he's not going to get a notification until he opens Zoom on his desktop, and then that message will be there waiting for him.
Okay, and I have a question for Mark. Mark, is your team, they all have the Zoom client and they leave it open all the time on the bottom of that, their screens and stuff?
I think some of us leave it open all the time and some of us haven't yet done that.
Okay.
But those that have been actively involved in the conversations do have it active. I know it sends me a notification on my phone.
Oh, it does.
Because I have it on my phone as well. So if I'm out in the field or doing a visit or something, I get it instantaneously and I can respond to it or see what they're talking about. And it keeps a record too. So you can always go back to it. Like, for example, yesterday we were showing some maple trees and what we were seeing in the region about the effect on maple trees. We were discussing what we think causes it. And then somebody else might have that problem later on. They can go back and they can look at those pictures. Oh yeah, that's what it was.
Right. Yeah, it's a really, really great tool.
I would suggest that, when Mark was saying he gets notifications on his phone, Jane, that's because he has the app. So you would have, whether you have a Samsung device or an Apple device, you need to go into Google Play, to the Play Store, or go into iTunes and get your, or the Apple Store and get your app for Zoom, and then log into your account through there so you can get notifications. Usually I treat my IM tools like I do my email, which is I try not to have it open all day long. That's a good tip to live by. Otherwise,
it's 24/7. Yeah.
Right. And I've heard from several people that with Slack, it can turn into an all day long water cooler conversation if you're not careful. And that is definitely the truth. So as more and more of us use the group chat with our Zoom tool, we'll want to be cognizant of making sure that we check it regularly so we don't miss questions that we get and things. But you don't necessarily have to have it open all day long if you don't want notifications all day. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a really, really good point. Notice here, Mark said that he had created a group, or Top of Ohio created a group for all A&R educators. So you can go in and create a group too. You can name the group, you can invite different members. You can make it private or public so that anybody can join, or it's private and only searchable by the people that you've invited. So really, really awesome things. And if we click join a public group, there's no public groups available to join. So it looks like nobody within the org has created a public group yet anyway. So really, really great Zoom feature for those of you who communicate regularly and don't want to have to send emails back and forth. If you just have like a simple question for a colleague, just send them a Zoom message and they can respond immediately if they're available, or if they have the Zoom downloaded on their phone, then they can get that message as well and respond there. So really, really cool feature. So that's group chat. Any questions about that?
Does anyone want to play around with group chat for a minute and add everyone here into one chat? Does someone want to try that out? Or if you're feeling confident with it, we don't have to play with it right now.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Do you guys want to give breakout rooms a shot?
Yeah.
Now, thank you, Brian, for being here. See you later. Does everybody see the option at the bottom of your screen to do breakout rooms, or is that only an option for the host?
Yeah, it's only an option for you today.
All right, so I'm going to hit breakout rooms. I've never done this before, but when I hit it, right now it's telling me I can assign the 11 participants in the meeting right now to a specific number of rooms, and the default is 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to assign you guys to 3 breakout rooms. You can choose to automatically have Zoom assign people, or you can go in and manually do it. So you're going to be, picking people and putting them into a specific breakout room. I'm just going to do it automatically, and then I'm going to hit create breakout rooms. And right now it's showing me that I have breakout room number 1 with Jane, Jared, Laura. Breakout room number 2. It'll show you basically the list of everybody who's in each room. And you can add a room if you want. You can recreate it so it'll reassign people. And then there's a big button that says open all rooms. So I'm going to go ahead and open the rooms, and I think you guys will be automatically assigned. So you can let me know what happens when we come back together as a group. This is my first time doing this, so I'm kind of excited to give it a shot. So I will see you guys in a few minutes. So it looks like you guys have the option now of going. There you go.
We talked about you while we were gone today.
There we go.
That worked pretty nice.
Did that work well for you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, it did.
So as the host, I didn't join a meeting. I just stayed here in my own little world. So I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything.
So was that by using automatic? So using the automatic Zoom, you didn't get assigned to a group. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I wonder if I did manually, if I could have assigned myself to
Or
a
maybe
group.
there's a setting for that or something.
Yeah.
Janae, was there an area for you to join in? Like, I know I've used, I can't remember. It's another program kind of similar to Zoom that University of Minnesota uses. And their hosts could join every room. They could pop in for a minute here, a couple minutes there.
I did not see the option for that.
Okay.
So the question for those of you guys who just came back, Jared asked if there was an option for me as the host to join in any one of your guys' groups. I did not see the option. So as I said, as soon as people started to come back in, as the host, I was just in my own little world by myself, and everybody else went into their groups. And I was very lonely. So I don't know, as the host, I don't know how I could join a group, and if I would have to go in and manually do it.
That's
We'll be
strange.
your if you want to try it again.
Do you guys want to try it again and see?
Being able to go in and listen to everyone's conversations. Like if you were in a room face to face, you could walk around and listen to what everyone was saying. But and I couldn't send you a chat either. I pulled up the group chat to see who was included, and it was only the people in my breakout room that I could send a chat to. So I couldn't even send you a chat.
Huh. Now I did broadcast a message to everybody that just said, "Hey, how's it going?" I don't even know what I typed in. Did you guys all see that?
I did.
Yes.
Where did that message pop up?
It popped up at the top of the screen. It was just a little blue message that said.
Yeah, there was no way that I could see to respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, you could message us, but we couldn't respond.
Yeah, you should also know that at least for me on my really crappy, slow, rural internet connection, that I actually thought I was going to drop when you switched us between rooms, because it went to red and it said your bandwidth is really low.
Oh,
and so
wow.
Something to know when you're you have people from all over the state, that some of us may have a lot of trouble with that switch in our system.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really good to know.
We have a 32-bit connection here, and we all share it, and there are 8 people in our office. So our internet is as bad as it can possibly be.
Yeah.
Plus, soon coming down right now. So
yeah.
Same thing happens in real life, though. When you go into the breakouts, you lose a lot.
That is so true.
Danae, I thought of a good use for the breakout rooms.
Yeah.
I was commenting on how we have these JSEP meetings where you drive to Columbus for a 2-hour meeting.
Yeah.
And then they split you up into committees, and then they split you up into program areas.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this could be a platform using breakout rooms where we could conduct these JSEP meetings and not have to drive to Columbus.
That is amazing. Yes. The more that we can reduce travel time and cost, the better. So I definitely agree with that, and we'll have to make that suggestion as well. I did try to manually assign people to breakout rooms. I did not have the option of assigning myself to anything. So as the host, I guess I just sit here by myself and wallow in my loneliness until you guys all return to me.
You're the IT specialist who just sits there waiting for a problem to troubleshoot.
The other interesting thing, though,
way to run a meeting. Awesome.
So for the recording, I assume that the recording is just going to show the host, being awkwardly quiet, and everybody else left. And then it'll show everybody start popping back in when I close the meeting rooms. When I tried to close the meeting rooms too, it gave you guys 60 seconds. I don't know if you received a warning that said 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was actually, Danae, there was actually a box that at the bottom, it had a timer that was counting down, and it said you will return to the main room. And then it had a list of who was in all of the breakout rooms and which room they were in. And then it said either joined or not joined. So everyone that wasn't in my room, it said not joined, and the people in my room, it said joined. I'm not sure what that means, but that's what we saw.
Well, so your guys' group was the last to come back. So I think other people, there was probably an option to return before that timer went off. So everybody else had returned prior to that. So maybe that's why it said not joined, because they were not in a breakout room and you guys stayed in your breakout room for a little bit longer.
Well, I tried to let it just go default to see if it would put me back in without doing anything, and it did.
Yeah. So after that timer, that 60 seconds was up, it automatically assigned you back to the main group. So that is an awesome feature. And yeah, definitely lots of great uses for that. JSAP meetings is a great example. And any other time where you guys want to just break people off into small group discussions and then have them come back as a group and share what they discussed.
And remember, that's just for meetings. You don't have that option with a webinar. I wish that we did. I'm not sure why Zoom doesn't allow it with the webinars, probably because it's too many people to manage. I mean, if you have a webinar with 500 people on it, that's a lot. But you have the option with the meeting, but not with a webinar. Is there anything else, Danae, is there anything else that you wanted to make sure that we mentioned, or anything you want to walk through? Otherwise, we can let everyone just kind of play around with any other tools that we have it.
Yeah, the only other thing.
I do have a quick question, a general question. So, in Karma Connect, you had to give permission for this and get permission for that. So if I'm understanding correctly, as a participant in this meeting, I could share my screen, just like Brian did. Okay, and so let's say—
try it, Jane, if you want to. Go ahead and try it. We can walk you through it.
I'm going to just share my other desktop, which is—
You have the option to record now.
All right, we are back recording, so we're going to have another nice little dip.
So the way that I did that, it's really easy. I'll just mention it quickly. If you toggle over someone's video, just pick anyone in our Brady Bunch format, toggle over their video, and you'll see two little buttons that come up. One says mute. So you can, if someone's, has a lot of feedback, or maybe there's background noise going on in their video, you can automatically mute someone that way. Does everyone have that option, or is it just me because I'm a host?
Just the host.
Just the host.
Okay. Yeah. Well, as the host, you have the option to mute everyone. And then there's a little ... button that will come up alongside the mute button, and you click on that, and that gives you a lot of options that you have for that participant. So as the host, I can, I don't know if you all have all of this, but I can rename that person. So I could actually, let's see.
Careful.
So I'm going to give Danae a new name. So she's now Superwoman. So you can actually do that. Do you all have the option to do that?
We only have chat and pin video, so I could send you a private chat, or I could pin your video.
Okay, all right. Pin video just means that I will always be at the top. So if you, like mine will always be big, or if you're in that view, if you're not in the Brady Bunch view, or when the screen is being shared, I will always be one of the first videos at the top or on the side. Spotlight video, let's try that. I've never tried that before. Okay, so we just made Danae's video bigger. Can everyone see her video bigger?
Yes.
Okay, so I can hit cancel, and that will take her back to normal, I think.
Yep.
Okay, and let's go. I'm gonna try something else here. I can forbid her to record. That's you. That's. And I can make her a host or a co-host. I can put her on hold. Not sure what that means. And I can remove her altogether.
See anything. I think I sort of like almost lose connection, but I'm still like connected to the meeting.
Okay.
You can give it a shot if you want, and I'll let you know what happens.
Yeah, I think probably what it will do is that way I can have a conversation with all of you, and she's not a part of that conversation. I'm pretty sure that that's what that is. That's all right. We don't need to try that. Okay. So I wonder, Danae, if you can rename yourself now, or if I have to do that to put your name back to normal.
I can rename myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are some pretty unique options, I guess. If you're the host, you've got a lot of options you can do pretty easily with each participant.
Yeah. And there was something, I was going to mention polling, which I now don't see on the bottom of my screen because I'm no longer the host. If you are going to have poll questions pop up, you have to, hi Jared, thanks for coming today. If you're going to do polling, you have to create those poll questions can you do it in the Zoom client, or do you have to log in to the desktop?
I believe you do it when you're scheduling the meeting and things, because I don't have the option to create a poll right now.
No, you have to do it, when you schedule the meeting, but I think you have to do it in the desktop version. You can't do it in the Zoom client, I don't think. So you would have to log in with the single sign-on, your OSU username and password. You could create those polling questions. You can have so many different polls, but you can have multiple questions in an individual poll. So you might have one poll with 3 questions, and then another poll that comes up with like 2 questions. And then as the host, you have the option to bring up those polls and launch an individual poll, which again, could be 1 question, could be a series of 3 questions. And then you can show people the results of that poll as well. But you do have to have host privilege to do that. And you want to make sure that you've created those polls ahead of time.
And I wanted to let you guys know that I just found that there's an option at the bottom of my screen as the host, right beside the share screen button at the bottom. There's an option to allow multiple participants to share their screen simultaneously. So I turned that on. So if a couple of you want to try to share your screen, we'll see how this goes. And we'll see what it looks like, because I've never done that before in a meeting where we've had multiple people share at the same time. So I see Danae's coming up. See. So it looks like Jane has shared hers, and so has Cindy. So when I go to view options, I can switch between different folks. So what happens for all of you when I do this? Are you getting the same thing where you can or am I in control of what you all see?
I think you're in control.
I think so.
So I'm gonna use Ken's.
I've got a notice that says you cannot share screen, or you cannot start screenshot while the other participants is sharing. So there must be a limit.
Okay. Yeah, because we have 4 people right now under the shared screen. So I'm going to switch to Cindy. So
what happened to me was I stopped seeing Danae's, because it let me share, but it was sharing mine only to me then, and like it was in a queue, and I couldn't see Danae's anymore. So
yeah, and all I've seen is mine so far.
Yeah, I see just mine.
It looks like we can change. If you do the view options, you can change and choose whose screen you're looking at. Like I'm looking at Cindy's right now.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, is if you all could do that, or if I only had the option to change which.
Oh, so free.
So if you go up to view options
at the top.
It's a little gray button.
I don't.
There's a drop down list that says shared screens.
I'm not seeing that on mine.
Okay.
I don't either.
When I went in to share my screen, I did not have the view options. It literally went to just as if I was sharing my screen. But as somebody who's not sharing my screen, I have it.
Oh, okay. So if you're sharing your screen, you don't see the option to view other screens. That's strange.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing just to see what I see.
Yeah.
Oh, now I have view options.
Oh yeah, same here.
And it's telling me that the shared screens are Cindy's, Ken's, and Mark's. And so I can pick whose I'm seeing. But I can only see one at a time.
That's what I have too. Mark, you have a very full calendar.
So I have the option, I don't know if you all have this option, but I have the option to annotate when anyone shares their screen. So I clicked on annotate on that drop down, and it's giving me a lot of options to like.
Oh, wow. Yeah. We have that.
Yep.
Yep. Go ahead and play with it for a second if you want. You can draw, you can.
Oh, and you can make it bigger. And oh, that's awesome.
So is somebody seeing that I just put an arrow?
Yes.
On the calendar? Okay. So if we're all on the same page.
I'm looking at someone else's screen right now. So this is, we're all annotating different screens probably.
I think we're annotating whosever calendar this is.
Yeah, I'm annotating I think Cindy's screen. So it's it's the Zoom screen.
Yeah, I'm doodling on Mark's calendar. Sorry, Mark.
I think I'm just going to give him a day off. I'm going to use this eraser.
This comes in really handy if you're trying to point something out or if you want everyone to pick something. So I guess that could be a unique way to poll everyone. You could pull up a something like a list or something they could choose from, and then they could vote this way. That might be a fun way to do a poll feature and not use a poll.
I hope these aren't permanent marks, right?
Is everyone filling up your calendar with stuff?
Yeah.
All right, so that's interesting. The multiple screens is interesting. I'm not sure what kind of a situation you would be in where you would want the ability to flip flop and allow people to flip flop like that, but who knows?
I assume if there's just one screen that you're seeing, you can still use those annotate items, right?
Yeah.
It might be good if you were, if you had like multiple speakers type thing queued up so that like you could have all of them sharing their screen ready to go. And then it was like, okay, now go to view options and flip to, you know, if you were in the kind of meeting where you were talking about different things that
No, they've already started.
But the negative thing about that is if you are one of the ones sharing your screen, you can only see your screen.
Right, true.
So you wouldn't be able to see anything else being shared, which is sort of an interesting dilemma. Maybe,
Yeah.
and you know what, Zoom, as far as I know, I think Zoom has been very, very receptive to like opinions and ideas. Like if you have like, hey, I really want this feature, we could talk to Ken Kolka and Randy Nemetz and ask maybe if they could submit a request for them to change that so that maybe we can, you know, we'd be able to see whoever's screen we wanted, even if we were sharing our own. So that's something we can talk about too. All right, it is 11:01, so I want to be mindful of everybody's time. Does anybody have any last questions that you really want answered or comments or anything?
No, but this has been very helpful to have people to like test these things with. So
absolutely.
It's hard to do it by yourself.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah,
I do
no
have a
problem.
random question from Julie. We have a online class coming up in September, and she wanted to know if there's any branding that we can do within Zoom for the specific class, or is that all through PowerPoint and our own visuals?
I feel like that's probably through PowerPoint and your own visuals. That would be a question though for Ken Kolka. Specifically, okay. you can just send him an email. I know he's on vacation this week, but you can send him an email and ask if there's anything that we can do that would help brand. I don't know of anything.
Usually, I think if you're not an OSU employee, when you pull up the Zoom, like first get into the Zoom or RSVP, like there is an RSVP option and things like that that would include the OSU branding. But other than that, I haven't noticed any.
Okay, and I wonder if that's what she means, just kind of an entry screen, because we will have folks from across the country participating.
If you do a webinar format, I think you have more options then, that you can have like a static picture, or there's ways that you could informally get around it with a meeting format, because I know that you guys are going to limit the size of the class, so a meeting would be much more interactive and everything, and you could just have a static picture as your profile picture during the class, so that if you're not talking or you're waiting on people to join, you've got that picture as your video.
Yeah, PowerPoint screen.
Yeah.
Branded.
Yeah, you could just share your like a PowerPoint. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right, folks. Any other last questions?
And I know this has been helpful. We want to try to provide everyone with as much, sandbox time and play time as we can, because we do know how helpful it is to just get in here and test stuff out. We have other trainings lined up on the first Friday of every month from now through October. And if at any time you all or you're hearing from your colleagues that it would be helpful to have another one of these, and we don't have one scheduled or one coming up, please let us know, and we'll try to make sure we add an additional one maybe in between our first Friday trainings. So
cool. Thank you.
All right, everybody, we're going to go and stop the recording. Thanks for joining us today.